This morning, you got dressed without thinking about it. You grabbed a shirt, you pulled on pants, maybe a jacket because it was cold outside. That feels like the whole story. It feels obvious. But the real answer is far stranger. Humans are the only primate that wears clothes. Every other animal that needs warmth grew fur, feathers, or blubber. You didn't. Somewhere along the way, your ancestors lost their body hair and never grew it back. So why? For a long time, scientists assumed the answer was simple. Cold weather. Humans left Africa, entered freezing climates, and needed something between their bare skin and the ice. Case closed. Except the timeline doesn't work. In 2003, a geneticist named Mark Stoneking, working with researcher Ralph Kittler, asked an unusual question. Not about bones, not about tools, about lice. Human head lice and human body lice are technically the same species, but they live in very different places. Head lice cling to hair. Body lice live in clothing, laying their eggs in the seams of fabric. If body lice evolved to survive in clothes, then the moment they split off genetically from head lice should tell you the moment clothing entered human life. So Stoneking and Kittler sequenced the DNA of both species. They calculated the mutation rate, and they found something that didn't match the old story at all. Body lice split off around 170,000 years ago. That's the number. Write it down for a second, because it matters. Modern humans didn't leave Africa in large numbers until roughly 60,000 years later, which means clothing existed for 100,000 years before your ancestors ever needed it for cold. So if it wasn't the cold, what was it? This is where an archaeologist named Ian Gilligan enters the story. Gilligan spent years studying the difference between what he calls simple and complex clothing. Simple clothing is a draped hide, thrown over the shoulders, easy to remove. Complex clothing is fitted, sewn, tailored to the body, designed to trap heat against skin. And in the archaeological record, complex clothing doesn't appear until much, much later, right around the peak of the last ice age, when temperatures in parts of Europe and Asia dropped low enough to kill an unprotected human in hours. But that 100,000-year gap, that's the part that should stop you. If early humans in Africa weren't freezing, and they weren't, then something else made them cover their bodies? Gilligan's theory points somewhere unexpected. Not survival, sun. Once humans lost their body hair, likely to sweat more efficiently and hunt in the heat of the day, their skin was suddenly exposed to direct sun for the first time in millions of years of primate evolution. Sunburn isn't just painful. It damages skin cells, breaks down folate in the blood, and over time increases the risk of skin cancer. A simple wrap of hide or woven plant fiber wasn't keeping anyone warm, it was keeping the sun off. Think about that for a second. The first clothing in human history may not have been about surviving winter at all. It may have been about surviving Tuesday afternoon, but there's a second thread running through this story, and it's just as strange. Clothing didn't just protect skin, it became a message. An archaeologist named Olga Sofer studied tiny fired clay fragments found at an Upper Paleolithic site in the Czech Republic called Dolní Věstonice. Pressed into the surface of the clay, preserved by accident over 27,000 years, were impressions of woven textile. Not animal hide. Woven fabric, with visible thread counts and pattern structure advanced enough to suggest actual looms. That means humans weren't just wrapping themselves in whatever was available, they were manufacturing textiles with deliberate patterns, long before agriculture, long before permanent settlements. Why would a hunter-gatherer, constantly moving, constantly working to survive, spend hours weaving a pattern into fabric? Because clothing had stopped being purely functional. It had become identity. Once a piece of fabric can carry a pattern, it can carry a message. This group wears these markings. This person holds this status. This body belongs to this community, and not that one. Anthropologists see this same instinct today everywhere you look. A uniform tells a stranger what job you do before you say a word. A wedding ring tells a stranger your relationship status without a conversation. A brand logo on a jacket tells a stranger what you can afford, or what you want them to think you can afford. None of that is about temperature. It never really was. So here's the strange part you carry with you every single day. When you got dressed this morning, you weren't just responding to the weather outside. You were doing something your ancestors started doing 170,000 years ago, long before winter had anything to do with it. You were covering skin that evolution left exposed, and you were sending a signal, whether you meant to or not, about who you are and where you belong. The hoodie you grabbed because it was cold, the sunglasses you put on without thinking, the specific colors you chose, the fit, the brand, the way you tucked your shirt in or deliberately didn't. Every one of those choices sits on top of an instinct older than agriculture, older than cities, older than language as we know it today. There's something almost unsettling about that. You think you're making a practical decision, reaching for warmth or comfort. But underneath it, 170,000 years of pressure is still quietly running the show. The sun that burned bare skin on the African savanna. The status markers woven into cloth by hands that never saw a written word. Your closet is a museum, and you didn't know you were curating it. So the next time you get dressed, pause for just a second. Notice what you actually reached for, and why. Because the real answer, the one hiding underneath the habit, was never about staying warm at all.